everyone. This is Cindy of 8 Letters Bookstore and Publishing. I'm your host and book curator for today. So, this is another book talk of 8 Letters, and we're featuring I Don't Want to Call It Love. It's a poetry collection written by Jake Acebo, who's with us today. And he's a young writer from General Santos, Mindanao. He writes essays, poems, and articles. And well, as per your bio, you love cats. He's
Yes, I do
writing.
love cats.
There you go. There you go. His writing explores themes of love and grief, reflecting humanity and the gods. And currently, he's studying agribusiness economics at the University of the Philippines, Mindanao. So, without further ado, welcome to 8 Letters, Jake.
Hello, welcome. Well, I'm Jake now, and as Miss Cindy mentioned, I'm from General Santos City. It's the tuna capital of the Philippines, accordingly. And yeah, I'm in my junior year studying agribusiness economics at UP Mindanao, and currently I'm also interested into taking literature classes. Um, Also, really love reading books, and I um just so excited to talk about my recently published book, I Don't Want to Call It Love. And I'm very happy that I am with Miss Cindy and Denise, no, my producer. They have been very helpful to me uh, in the publication process of this particular work.
Mhm. Congratulations, Jake, once again. And I'm sure your cats love the tuna.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll shoot right ahead sa questions natin. Okay, so as everyone knows, the subject of love, has been written millions of times by so many authors out there. So I don't want to call it love. What can Jake Acebo offers to the table of prose and poetry lovers?
Okay. Well, it's a beautiful question. First, I'd like to point that out because it's always a sort of a misconception when we talk of poetry, when we talk of any art, and when anybody or those who are distant to us, even if a person close to us would write something about poetry or something about poems and they make art out of it, we think of them as if their art is tainted with portions of love. But this book clearly, or this poetry collection clearly emphasizes, when do we honestly call poetry love, and when do we call love poetry? So it tries to have a voice there trying to say that, oh, this is love and this is not. And it's a beautiful thing to uncover and to discuss, because we get to see that within this sort of writing, or within this, in a general term, within this sort of art, there exists love, but it could also be not about love at all. Yeah. And so I think readers would love it.
Thanks so much, Jake, for for explaining that. Yeah. So I also want to share with you guys what the book cover looks like. This is I don't want to call it love. So this is the book cover. It's very minimalistic. Ayan. Um, okay.
By the
So
way,
yeah.
I thank Cindy for designing the book cover. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, we're super glad that you like it. Pero ang nakaka-curious din dito is why, well, you did mention kanina that the poetry collection in this book also, you talk about, okay, which one should you call love, or which one yung, like, vice versa.
Mhm.
Um, but my second question is, I've seen all the entries in this book, and one one of the poems here was entitled "I Don't Want to Call It Love." Maybe we can talk a little bit about it. Although I know that the book is showcasing that, th-
Mhm.
or show or putting the spotlight on that poem.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you, Cindy. Um, well, firstly, the the title "I Don't Want to Call It Love" is a product of reflecting on the recurrent themes that the entries of these poetry collection contain. um, when I was actually yung poem na very specific to the "I Don't Want to Call It Love" came late already. I sort of just a few background. I started writing this last year October,
Mm-hmm.
and the "I Don't Want to Call It Love" idea already parang emerge midway of the writing process, and it's really a as I've mentioned, it's a product of reflecting upon the themes of most of the entries of the book. So so to be more precise of that particular entry, it's it's as if telling it's as if telling that to be able for me no for me to be able to talk about love, I must somehow pretend or find some medium to express it, and that is through poetry. So in short, there are most of the poems, if you will read it, contain sort of denial that this is love and this is not. And somehow I'd like to emphasize that that particular poem, that I don't want to call it love, you need to be able to talk about love. I need to be able to talk about love to continue writing, and I must pretend that it is poetry. So that's how it came to life.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, Jake, that this is your favorite entry of them all, or you have another favorite?
Um, well, I don't want to rank.
Mm,
I don't want to rank my poems because I value them of equal footing. I believe
mm,
that every every uh, every poems there are really product of so much emotions,
mhm,
and I think aside from this particular entry, yung "I don't want to call it love," the first poem that I put or I wrote was yung "Eyes of a Lesser God," and it's actually um, part of a particular section of the book, which is named wait, let me go there. Yeah, "The Truth is God is a Human with His Name." It's part
mm,
of that section,
mhm,
and this particular entry also, aside dun sa naunang aside dun sa "I don't want to call it love," um, sort of provide an emphasis of guilt, no,
mhm,
of love, yung mga ganong mga emosyon.
mhm.
So aside from the "I don't want to call it love" entry, I also love the "Eyes of a Lesser God."
Okay. So will that be the excerpt that you're going to read for us
Yeah.
today? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So at least our audience can have a taste of "I Don't Want to Call It Love" book.
All right,
All right.
sure.
Okay. We're ready.
Okay, I'll begin. "Eyes of a Lesser God." I remembered the day you stole my sight, the first in almost a decade I plucked a sampaguita. I remember the last time you called me by my name, the first in a few months I heard it tainted by the sins of loving. And I remember the night I so much wanted to tell you how I felt, but at the back of my mind is the thought that your eyes would not meet mine, that maybe the elevations of our eyesight would never look the very same way I described them in detail. Now, I'm back at sorting the best words to describe how I feel after saying I'm done with you. After saying I no longer feel the same. After pushing myself into a cliff of admittance, knowing you will always be above the heavens. How do I confess to a God? When do I stop calling your name? Because it sounds like the first time you cried in front of me. How do I meet your eyes so I can stop going back and forth from writing these pages? When will I stop adoring you like my own skin? Because I see you like a lover and I'm tired of having these eyes. Thank you.
Wow. Yay. Applause. Round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is really something. Eyes of a lesser God. Of course, at first glance, you'll think, okay, why would you, why? Because this is I would assume, or like people would assume, agad na okay, this is going to be a collection of love poetry and all that, and then they see this title, okay, Eyes of a Lesser God, and then then they start to read it, and then, oh, okay, okay, now I get it.
Mhm.
Why do you think, Jake? What are you uh trying to showcase here in the eyes of a lesser God?
Um, Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let me just explain
Mm-mm.
this poem now. You know, if you read if you read the poem, there's a voice. You know, there's a voice here that tries to settle in a constant place, never to cross some boundary, because he
Mhm.
feels guilty. And in the middle, but that voice, that voice know and understand that it is love, right? It understands and it recognizes that it is love,
Mhm.
but at the same time, that voice feels so guilty. Okay, and now he tries to because of that guilt, he asks the question, how do I confess to a God? You
Mhm.
know, Cindy, Cindy, we never confess to a God. I mean, growing up in a Catholic family, I
Mhm.
learned to confess my sins to some medium or priest before God. You
Mhm.
never directly confess to God, because we imagine God as somebody who sees everything in us.
Mhm.
And now this voice, because of that guilt of loving, because of
Mhm.
that guilt of loving, it tries to ask, perhaps ask and imagine, how how do it like, or how would he try to explain, or how would it try to explain that you feel so guilty of loving someone, to the point that he needs no medium and directly confess this guilt to God.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. And and so and so and so I also remember this, when I was writing this poem also. i
Mhm.
remember a friend I remember a friend telling me, hi Danae, if you're watching. She told me that we deserve a love that does not make us feel the guilt of loving. And yet the voice here
Mhm.
constantly call for God, right?
Mhm.
And towards the end, he this voice is trying to console itself and make itself aware that although this is love, and although you started feeling guilty of loving, you have to understand that that it's okay, that it's
Mm-hmm.
okay, that you can just play pretend and call it poetry instead. That's why in the last line, I see you like a lover, and I'm tired of having these eyes, and implies that
Mm-hmm.
you can also never call it love if you want to. You may just want to settle calling it poetry. That's why I said earlier, for me to continue writing, I must be able to talk about love, and
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I must pretend that it is poetry. Yeah.
Ayun. Wow, parang I feel like you're trying to make um a contrast between love and poetry. Of course, there are many words na pwedeng gamitin.
Yes, yes.
Panggamit as a contrast sa love. Like there's hate, there's
Mm,
indifference, and
mm, mm, mm.
at marami pang iba. But what you're trying to portray here is okay. Poetry is the contrast of love, and this is really something different. And I guess I can leave it to the audience or to the readers themselves. No, how can one be guilty with love, or how can it be sinful, or how can it be so many
Yes,
things? Because
yes,
I do agree with your friend when she said no na
yes,
when she said you deserve a love that doesn't make you feel guilty, doesn't make you feel like it's sinful. And
yes,
okay, ano
yes.
yan, lesson yan sa mga nanonood sa atin ngayon. If you ever think it's sinful or you're having guilt, I'm not a love advisor, but maybe you have to question things
Mhm,
na,
mhm,
maybe it's poetry instead
mhm.
of love. Okay. Ayun. Um, okay, you did mention earlier that you don't rank your poems, and as a creator myself, I also tend to say, okay, wala akong favoritism sa kanila. They're like my children, right? But
Mhm.
just in
Yes.
case, do you have any least favorite in this collection? If there is, paano siya na isama sa collection na to? Like, what was there a dilemma somehow, or was there a struggle?
Okay. Thank you.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were right.
mm,
Earlier I mentioned that I sort of don't want to rank every poem here because I value them of equal footing.
mm,
But then I actually removed two entries from
mm,
from this collection. Um, because of some because I think it's too personal. Those two
mhm,
poems are too personal to me, and so they're not here. But the title is the title of the first one I think is Cuatro, and the
mhm,
second one is a Filipino poem, the only Filipino um, poem I considered to include in this
mhm,
collection. It's named uh, Tula Ito
mhm.
pangalan mo. So I literally I literally excluded them
Mhm,
in this collection, and so yeah, that's it.
mhm.
But
Yeah, well,
as to the present entry of the collection, I really love them.
mm,
I don't have a least favorite or so called.
yeah, that's good to know. Well, at least our audience, our viewers right now would think that this, I don't want to call it love collection, is curated talaga, and it's a masterpiece. Okay, so that's good. Jake, who do you think are your influences in writing? Like, how did you create and develop your style over the years? Yeah, and okay, so you've always been a writer, pero like how did you become that? How did you reach, where you are today?
Okay, that's a very interesting
Mm,
question because I'd like to point out that I'm no born writer. I don't like writing. Um, Personally, I grew up just just a normal child trying to trying to express how he feels. And writing has become a medium to me. I only started writing, Cindy. I only started writing when I was in 11th grade. I think I was 16. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of a product of reading books. No, I love
Mm-hmm.
𝘋𝘕𝘕 so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm reading his his novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I'm also in love with
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Wilde, no? His classics, especially
Mm-hmm.
The Nature of Dorian Gray, and especially Madeline Miller. Um,
Mm-hmm.
her her two novels, The Song of Achilles and
Mm-hmm.
um, The Song of Achilles and 𝘰𝘕. And in fact, the particular section where Eyes of a Lesser God is a part of, yung the truth is God is a human with his name, is a product of my interest to what Maddie, as I call her, to what
Mm-hmm.
Maddie tries to delve into his work, into her works rather.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm also a fan of Greek literature, and and reading them made me realize that God is actually just a reflection of humanity. The
Mm-hmm.
gods, they are personification of us, of grief, of love, of hatred, of anger. And I tried to use that kind of learning from reading this type of books and literature, and blended them into to my voice, to the voice that I try to invoke in writing this. I don't want to call it love.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thanks for sharing that, Jake. Ocean Vuong, by the way, is also a young essayist. So you guys check him out. And also,
Yes.
I also like the Song of Achilles. So these are great influences, Jake. So I can see them. I somehow saw, um, you know, some of some of the styles. Of course, I'm sure you've developed your own styles as
Mhm.
well, all these years. Talking about, I don't want to call it love. um who should read this collection?
Okay.
Mm,
So everyone can read this
mm,
collection. I always believe that as humans we're born to love, and and I believe if you guys watched Dead Poet Society, sabi pa nga doon, di ba? Love, poetry, romance. It's what we believe for. And so there's no really specific audience that this book caters to. Everybody, everyone can read this collection because as humans, we experience love and certainly poetry.
okay, so that's so great. So Jake, what's next for you, like after I don't want to call it love? Are you writing something else, something new?
Ah, okay. Interesting. Well, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, I'm still in my junior years studying economics, and God help me. I need to finish this degree first, and hoping I could finish it on time next year. But I'm certainly writing something. Of course, influenced this time by Ocean Vuong. I want to just figure a sneak peek of what I'm trying to do now
Mm-hmm.
is I'm trying to search for a voice because I have not explored novel writing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want to write a novel, and it's sort of exploring how it's like to be a gay writer, and uh, how it's like to live in a society that sees gay individuals for centuries deprived of rights and of sort of love. So I am trying to to look into that possibilities. But yes, I'm definitely writing something.
That's so exciting, Jake. I cannot imagine how or what you'll come up with. Siguro, I would imagine na meron siyang, poetic style somehow,
Yes,
you know.
certainly, certainly.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Mhm.
so excited for that. So, for our viewers, if you haven't got a copy of I Don't Want to Call It Love, make sure to head to our website at 8lettersbooks.com/shop. Check out Shopee, check out Lazada, and also Amazon. Ayan.
Yes.
Thank you, Jake, for gracing our show. Do you have any last words to our viewers?
Okay. Thank you so much to those who were able to have their copy na. Thank you for supporting me. This is my first book, my child, and I'm so happy that you guys show interest into my writing, and I hope you continue to support not only me but also other writers. There are a lot of local artists out there, and I swear they have this same, if not almost superb way of expressing their art. And so I really hope that you support us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake. You're an amazing creator. So there
Thank
you
you.
go, guys. Thank you. And we hope to see you again next time. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Thank you.